Hello. Just a few words on fuel dumping. Very infrequently, but sometimes it's necessary for an airplane to jettison fuel. Fuel jettison is a proper terminology. And this can come as a result of having to make a landing shortly after takeoff because of something that has gone awry, something that is amiss. The max landing weight is set for every airplane. There's a max certificate landing weight. And the only way an airplane can change weight after departure is to burn fuel or get rid of the fuel. That's not going to happen unless there's some dire emergency. If an airplane has to return, perhaps it's going on a long flight and it's full of fuel and has to return for some reason, you get two choices. You can fly around long enough to burn down the fuel naturally, or you can jettison the fuel, commonly referred to as fuel dumping. This is something that's really, really serious. The fuel jettison and fuel dumping typically should occur at an altitude generally above 6,000 feet in an area that the FAA designates. If the airplane's already at altitude high up and has to jettison for some reason, no big deal. That fuel will evaporate in the air. The challenge comes if it happens at a low altitude, and that would typically occur if there was an emergency after takeoff, perhaps a loss of an engine, a fire, or something bad, or someone has to come back. Maybe it's a medical emergency, who knows? But instead of taking maybe 5-6 hours to burn down to a normal landing weight, if you're normally flying, you've got to get rid of it now. And there are fuel jettison switches in all the big commercial airplanes have a fuel jettison switch, which is usually a guarded switch that will allow jettison of the fuels from dump nozzles on the wings. They'll come out at varying rates depending on the type of airplane. So between the fuel jettison and burning the fuel in the engine or engines, the weight goes down. After it goes down to an acceptable amount, the airplane can land. Truth is, the airplane can land at any weight that it takes off at. There is a maximum certificated landing weight, and that is a maximum that ensures integrity of the airframe itself. The airframe, the gear, the flaps, all the components. If you go above that weight, for whatever reason, have an overweight landing, which can happen, well, then a special inspection is required because you've exceeded a prescribed limit. So the airplane will get a special inspection. And you have the challenge of making an overweight landing or really a heavyweight landing. It's going to take a lot more brake energy to stop the thing on the runway. And because of that, it's likely you'll have overheated brakes and a potential fire hazard. But if it's necessary to land the airplane, you can actually land any commercial jet at whatever weight it takes off at. It's not desired, but it could actually be done. There was an incident not too long ago involving I think a Delta jet out of Los Angeles. They had a problem. I think they were going to Japan and lost an engine and started to dump fuel. Well, they weren't at a very high altitude, and normally that fuel would evaporate before it hit the ground, but in this case, he started to dump at a low altitude over a populated area, and some of the people got sprayed with the remnants of the fuel, which are, hydrocarbons and things that are potentially carcinogenic. So if you do have time, the typical procedure is to inform air traffic control that for whatever reason, you got an emergency or something, you need to dump some fuel, need to reduce fuel, jettison fuel. Typically, they'll vector you to an area that's safe to do that. Generally, you're going to be above 6,000 feet, if possible. Maybe you can't get that high. I don't know what can happen. But a safe area where you can dump. But when it comes to saving the airplane, saving everyone's lives, whatever it takes, you just do that. You just do that to save the airplane. Fuel jettison, if you're flying long periods of time over the oceans or whatever, and you're still a little heavy, well, if you're jettisoning, you're probably not going to jettison that much, and it's less of a big deal to get down to landing weight. But the most critical time is when the aircraft is heavy and it's low. But sometimes, I flew cargo for many years, And an aircraft full of cargo is going to weigh more than people. Cargo weighs more than people, a lot more than people. And there are many times I've made maximum weight takeoffs. And if we lost an engine in the mountains or whatever, we'd be jettisoning right away. Because even as big and mighty as those engines are, the laws of physics sometimes limit how quickly you can climb, and that may be critical. So the pilots may have to jettison fuel when they have to save the aircraft and everyone else. Those are extreme situations, and they're very, very rare. I really can't think of one offhand, but they have the procedures in there just in case one has to do that. So that's just a few words on fuel jettison, and I hope you guys have a safe trip next time you go somewhere.